welcome to another lab. So what you're going to do throughout this lab is the VLAN. The lab is about the VLAN using L3 and then L3 switch, and then we'll configure the DHCP. So the first phase is the inter-VLAN communication. So this particular block, there is already an inter-VLAN communication which I've done in one of the previous labs. So if you've not watched it, please, I will leave the link somewhere at the top of these videos for you to go and click and watch what I've done to make these VLANs to communicate. So the second part is going to be the configuration of the DHCP. So what I'm going to do is I will try to bring another L3 switch. Okay, the L3 switch I'm using is the 3650. So I'm bringing another one, okay, over here, and I'll have to connect a server here, which I'm going to use as a DHCP. So the link, you see over here, I've assigned most of the interfaces to their respective VLAN, but I have the interface 24 that's not part of any VLAN except the native one. So I'm going to connect through that particular port, that is 24. I'll also connect to the 24 over here, and then I'll connect to any of the interface to my DHCP. Alright, so this is the DHCP that I'm gonna configure. So first of all, what I'm gonna do is I have to make sure I'll configure this point to point. So between these L3 switches, I have to make sure the link is up. So what I'm gonna do first is I have to power the L3 switch. We know how it's done. If it is not done, please, I'm inviting you to go and watch one of my videos where I've introduced how to use L3 switch. So I'm just powering the L3 switch. It's powering on. Alright, so now I can start configuring. Let me assign the addresses first. So this link I'll use 10.0.0.0, and this one I'll use 172.18.0.0. Alright, so I'm gonna configure this interface. I'll start with the gig 24 first. That will be interface gig 1/0/24. So if I try assigning an IP address, it's not going to work because by default the interface is in the switch port mode. So what I'm going to do is I have to remove the switch port mode in this particular interface. I have to type no switch ports. Okay, so now I can assign an IP address. That will be 10.0.0.1. the subnet mask is 255.0.0, and I have no shutdown. Alright, I'll do the same thing on the other side. This one will be I'll do the same thing. So enable, I've not done any configuration, config t interface gig 1/0/24. So no switch ports, and then our IP address 10.0.0.2 .0.0.0, no shutdown. Alright, so I've also assigned an IP address on this particular interface. If I have to check, I'll just show interface gig 1/0/24. Okay, what do I have? Okay, what is it? Scroll up. Yeah, so this is the interface. Where's the IP address? The IP address. Okay, the interface is the 24 is up and running. I'm looking for the IP address. There's no IP address. Why? There's no IP address. There might be an IP address. Okay, let me enable the routing feature by typing IP routing. Okay, Now why is it not showing? Show IP, show interface gig 1/0/24. It has to show. It's supposed to show. It's supposed to show. It's supposed to show. IP address. Is there showing the MAC address? Okay, let's continue. Let's proceed first. See how it goes. So now that I've done configuring the point-to-point, I have to configure the local interface, which is giga11. So what I'm going to do is I have to go back to the global interface gig1/0/1, and this is the IP network address. So IP address will be I've not changed the mode, so I have to change the mode, switch ports mode, no switch port mode, so it will be IP address 172.18.0.1, 255.255.0.0, and no shutdown. Alright, so now I've configured the gateway of this particular LAN. Okay, so here I have the DHCP. So what I'm going to do is to assign an IP address of the DHCP. The DHCP will take the IP address of I have 172.18.0.1. Okay, the .1 is already being used as a gateway, so I'll take 2, and then this is the gateway. This is the gateway. 172.18.0.1. 172.18.0.1. That's a gateway. Alright. So let me ping the gateway if I'm able to ping it. Ping 172.18.0.1. See, okay, the gateway is responding. Let me also try to ping this interface, see if it's working. Ping 10.0.0.2. See if it's working. Yeah, it's also working. Unfortunately, when I tried checking, it was not showing. Alright, so let's do this. So the communication is working. The next step will be to configure the DHCP. That's the second phase of this lab, configuration of the DHCP. What we need is to have IP addresses on this particular LAN dynamically. So what I'm going to do is I have to configure this VLAN on the DHCP. So go back to the DHCP. After assigning an IP address of the device, I need to go and configure the service. So go to services, look for DHCP, and on the service first, I have to name it. So let's say our VLAN 10. So what's the default gateway of VLAN 10 is 192.168.10.1. There is no DNS server. 192. I'll move to 168.10.10, and I want it to start from 5, and the subnet mask 255.255. Okay, the maximum number of users I'm expecting, let me just use 50, and I'll have to add. Okay, then I'm going to configure for VLAN 15. So 5 here, it will be 172.16.20.1. Okay, and the start will be 172.16, and I have 20. I want it to start from 10. Alright, then the subnet mask here will be 0. Number of users, let's say 30. Then I'll add, and I will configure for the last one. That's VLAN 20. The gateway will be 20 here, and then the third octet will be 0. Okay, all right, so here is 20. Okay, here is 0. Okay, and then starting from 7. All right, so the subnet mask 255.55.0.0, and the maximum number of users we have 40, and then we also add. All right, so here are what our 3 VLANs. These are the gateways we have, and yeah, these are the gateways. This is the start IP address where the DHCP will start giving IP addresses from. This is the subnet mask, and then this are the number of users we expect. All right, so let's try. Okay, now if I try requesting for an IP address, it's not going to work because I've not configured any DHCP relay. So I make sure I configure the DHCP relay. How am I going to do it? I have to go to each interface, the gateway of each VLAN, to configure the relay. So the IP address of the server is 172.16.18.02. So I will go back to the L3, the first one, interface VLAN 10. That will be IP helper address. IP helper address, that will be 172.18.0.2. That's the IP address of the device running the DHCP service. I'm gonna copy it. Okay, and then I'll save. So I'll go back to the interface VLAN 15. I'll do the same thing again. Save. Then I'll go back to VLAN 20. I'll also do the same thing, and then I'll save it. All right, so now we can test. All right, unfortunately, if I also test, it's not gonna work because there's no routing protocol configured. I did not pay attention, but the phase 3 should be the routing protocol configuration. Routing protocol of configuration. So I'm not gonna make it complex. I'll just configure routing information protocol. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'll start with this one, starting the routing protocol. Our router RIP. I have to announce the network. The first network will be 192.168.10.0. I don't have, right? I have to provide the second one, which is 172.16.20.0, and I have another one that will be 172.20.0.0. Okay, and I have to announce the point-to-point. That is network 10.0.0.0. Okay, and I have version 2. Alright, save and go back to the second L3 switch. Also configure the routing protocol. It's router RIP network. I have 10.0.0.0. I have network 172.18.0.0 and version 2. Okay, so now I've configured the routing protocol on the board L3 switches. So let's now test how it's gonna be. Requesting for a DHCP. Let's wait for some time. I'm getting an paper. Let's refresh. Okay, now the VLAN 10 is getting an IP address 192.168.10.5 because I said it should start from 5. Let me test the second device again. I'm refreshing. Yes, it's also getting an IP address. So up to now, VLAN 10 has been served. We'll move to VLAN 15. also test if it's getting IP addresses dynamically. Of course it does. Or gets to the second device, also test. Yeah, it's also getting an IP address, and we'll move to the VLAN query and test. Okay, 27 is also getting an IP address. Okay, let's come here. Okay, it's also getting an IP address. Alright, so we could see now we've used what VLAN and then implemented a DHCP. So I hope guys you've enjoyed the lab. If yes, please let me know in the comment section what are the labs that you would like us to implement on this channel. And guys, share the video to the maximum, give a video a thumbs up. It's always boost the channel and the video as well. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.